What is up, everyone? Welcome to the channel and welcome to another God of War Ragnarok video. Now, before we jump into things, I just wanted to say I'm doing a God of War Ragnarok giveaway, and all you have to do is basically be subscribed and interact with my videos. I'm going to be covering a lot of God of War going forward, so if I see that someone's just commenting a lot and they're really interacting and engaging with my content, and if you join the channel's Discord and I see that you guys are pretty active in my Discord, that's definitely going to increase your odds, because if you're constantly interacting with my God of War videos and you're leaving comments and stuff, then obviously I can tell that you're really interested in the game. And if I'm going to give away the game, I want it to go to somebody that is really going to love the crap out of God of War. So like I said, all you have to do is be a subscriber, interact with my videos, leave comments all the time, and join the channel's Discord, and then I will pick a winner as we get closer to the game's release. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, earlier today, Sony released a video going behind the scenes on the making of God of War, and more specifically the combat side of things, and we actually learned quite a bit of new information. So I'm going to be breaking down everything in that video, combining it with a lot of the information that we got from some of the early previews that the media put out there. So the first thing I want to talk about in comparison to God of War in 2018, there are a lot of new enemy types in God of War Ragnarok. This is one of the main complaints that they heard from the first game, and this is one of my issues with the first game as well. Personally, I gave God of War 2018 a 9 out of 10, and my only complaint was the lack of variation of like mini bosses and stuff. It just felt repetitive fighting the same big monsters over and over again. So in this game, they're adding tons of new enemy types. We're going to 9 different realms, and they said that each realm is going to have their own unique enemy types, and alongside that we're going to get a ton of new mini bosses, ranging from small sized creatures that are fast and hard to hit to really big just creatures that take up the entire screen. So that's super exciting, and I'm glad they made that change, and I cannot wait.
After the last game, we've heard the community cry out for more mini bosses, bigger creatures, and enemy variety, and this time we really leaned into that. So in God of War Ragnarok, you're going to be traveling to all 9 realms, and each realm is going to have like its own theme of enemies that are very unique to that space. For example, in Alfheim, we're familiar with the Dark Elves, but this time around we're going to be fighting Light Elves, such as the Light Elf Warrior.
So the next thing I want to talk about is some of the combat and some of the new animations that they're adding. So one of the major things they touched up upon in the behind the scenes is that they've added new free-falling animations to combat. So in God of War Ragnarok, a lot of the combat is a lot more open. There's a lot of climbing and getting up high, and then they added these new free-fall animation attacks. So if you decide to get up above the enemy, you can jump off and land on top of the enemy, doing this big like ground pound explosion, launching them up into the air, doing tons of damage and setting you up for a combo move. So they've added a lot more in-air animations and attacks. So speaking of animations, they've also added a ton of new finishing moves in God of War Ragnarok. Another complaint that a lot of people had in the first one is that the finishers just kind of felt repetitive. You just do the same move over and over and over, and once you've seen it like 5 or 6 times, you know, you're going to see the same finishers over and over throughout the entire game. Well, they listened to that feedback and they added a ton of new finishers to the game. So now, depending on what you have equipped, you will have different finishers for each weapon. So if you use the Blades of Chaos, you're going to have a different finishing move compared to if you had your axe, or if you were just using your fists, or if you had your shield equipped. And there's multiple animations for each weapon. So in God of War Ragnarok, anytime you pull off a finishing move, it's going to feel a lot more unique, and it's not going to be as repetitive as the last game.
One new mechanic or element that I'm really excited about is these combo finishers. Building up the stun meter this time around is going to lead to different ways to basically decapitate the enemy.
You're going to be able to choose, which weapon you want to have when you kill a guy.
And then next up, let's talk about shields. Now, the shield in the last game was pretty basic. You just held in the L1 button and you blocked, and then if you timed it correctly, you could parry. But in God of War Ragnarok, they're going to be giving you 2 different types of shields, one for blocking and one for parrying, and then you can build your character around whatever your playstyle is. So if you want to just constantly be parrying the enemy and knock them off guard and set them up for a combo or a finishing move, you're going to want to use the smaller shield. But if you're more of a blocker type character, then you want to use the bigger shield, and then that shield has an ability where the more damage you take, it builds up over time, and then you can release all that energy and do sort of like a big explosion move. So there's going to be 2 different types of shields in this game.
One of the ways we've expanded Kratos combat this time around is we've given more utility and choice to his shield loadout.
If you are a parry person, you could really go for a shield that gears towards parrying. If you're a big blocker, then you could choose a shield that will really match your playstyle.
So next up, they talk about Atreus and how he's involved in combat in God of War Ragnarok versus God of War 2018. Now, Atreus is going to be a lot more independent in this game versus the last one. In the last game, Atreus sort of just sat back and only interacted when you told him to do things, because that made sense with the story. Atreus was only supposed to listen to you. They made that very clear at the very beginning of the game, that Atreus was only going to attack if you told him to attack. But in God of War Ragnarok, it's been a couple more years, and with multiple years of training under Kratos, Atreus is now more independent. He can act on his own, he can pull off his own finishers and his own combo moves. And he's going to be a lot more involved in combat without you telling him exactly what to do. Like, he'll actually go out and fight enemies without you just spamming the square button over and over again. Atreus can travel through the environment on his own. He doesn't need to hop on your back anymore. And when it comes to puzzles, he can use his bow to just shoot different targets for you and stuff. And he's a lot more involved in the puzzles and the decision making in this game. So I definitely like the idea that Atreus is more of a companion now, and you're not really as much babysitting as you were in the first game, and now he's sort of just fighting alongside you, and he's actually going to be pretty useful in combat.
In God of War Ragnarok, we've enhanced the Kratos and Atreus duo. He's going to initiate a little bit more, be aggressive. He's going to fight alongside you, and sometimes even surprise you with his combo abilities too.
Some of the new expanded companion actions that you'll see Atreus do leverage the fact that he's older now, he's bigger now. And he's different from Kratos, so his magic has a different flavor.
Not only that they fight side by side together, there are also a lot of mini games and player interaction moments. For example, like the puzzle systems and the set pieces. You definitely will see a lot more collaborations between father and son.
And then the final thing I want to touch on in this video is that this game is going to have a lot more blood and gore compared to the last game. Now, God of War 2018 did have a lot of blood and gore. Like, some of the finishers and executions, you're like straight up ripping people in half. But in this game, they've added a lot more animations to the finishers, and there's just a lot more ripping and tearing and dismembering, and they really amped up the blood and gore. Like, you can cut people's heads off, and it just looks a lot more nitty and gritty, and I think it makes you look and feel more powerful. I mean, Kratos is supposed to be really strong and really powerful, and when you're straight up just ripping enemies in half, I think that is just a really good touch, and it makes you feel like you're actually Kratos. And that's how Kratos would actually be fighting. Like, he would be dismembering people and ripping arms off and ripping people in two, because he's just super strong. So I'm glad that they're embracing the blood and gore, and there's going to be a lot more of it, and I think that's a good change, and I think that it's going to make the game a lot more fun. But that pretty much does it for everything in this video. If you guys enjoyed it, then please give it a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. I plan on making another God of War video where I break down all the information that we've learned from all the pre-reviews. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you guys want to stay up to date on all things God of War Ragnarok, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. And that is going to do it for me, everyone. And I will talk to you all in the next video.